Okay, it looks like we have a number of people who've joined, so I think we'll get things started here. Just as a quick note before we get started, as the presentation's going on, if you have any questions that pop up in your GoToWebinar panel on the right-hand side there, you can just enter the questions, and then once we get to the end, we'll kind of roll through those questions, and Kyle and Saul can get those answered for you. So just, as you think of questions, just throw them in there, and we'll address them at the end. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Kyle.
Great. Well, thank you all for joining us today. Just in terms of format, reminder again about the webinar series. We try to keep these to 20 minutes. We're going to step through the topic and not drag it on too long. And really appreciate you joining. Our goal is to put out valuable content, and we'll continue to do so. Today we're going to be talking about the integration between Cargas Energy and P3. This is something that really makes life for our clients that we have in common easier, creates a lot of efficiencies. It's something that we've been working on together for quite some time, and we're going to keep making it better. Really the way that I view the partnership is we really enhance the value of each other. We're not helping our clients deliver fuel advantage deliveries or billing or any of that. And really our specialty is propane safety documentation. So by putting this integration out there, it allows for significant efficiencies, and that's already being utilized by over 52 locations today that already utilize this integration. So if you're a current client of P3 and Cargas and not using it, you should start using it. We certainly recommend that. And if you're not using one of the platforms, we'd love to talk to you about that as well. We feel we really bring significant amount of value to our clients in the marketplace. Really extremely grateful today to have Saul join us. He's really one of the smartest people I know, and you make yourself better when you're around smart people. He's the one that invented Cargas Energy. Extremely hard worker, adds a lot of value to his clients. And Saul's going to step us through a couple slides about the partnership, and we're going to go live. We'll look at the integration actually happening, and then we'll take some questions. So Saul, thanks a lot for joining us. I'll kick it over to you.
Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate the kind words. So thanks for everybody showing up. As Kyle said, we've been working together some years, so we'll give a little brief kind of overview of some little history, talk about our current status of the integration, and then we'll do some demo of that, and then we'll give you an outline of some of the future enhancements, and then, as you said, take some questions here. So yeah, we appreciate it, and we have a long history. When we started here at Cargas with our energy software back in 2005, our first customer, Wilson Oil and Propane, started using the tank shirt from Boston Environmental. So that's when I met Kyle way back when. I had a little more hair back in that day, less gray. Kids were young, probably like that picture in the back there. But now they've graduated college or in college. So it's been a while, but very fruitful. So we've had our mobile service app and our service integration, since the get-go as well. But we definitely have some gaps that the propane safety and compliance process that P3 has provided. And as Kyle said, we absolutely want to integrate with partners like them. I think Kyle and we had some conversation way back, and we were talking about how you guys could build your mobile app in like HTML5, and I think that kicked off some of your ideas way back when you guys started doing more of that. So back in, I think history serves me right, it was 2019 when we started the phase integration. And as is the case with a lot of things that we do here at Cargas, we kind of have a bigger picture in mind, but we'll start and do it in steps. So sometimes it doesn't go as fast as we'd like it to. There's always things we want to do, more, better, sooner types of things. But hopefully we're progressing, and we'll talk a little bit about that now. So don't hesitate, jump in any time, Kyle. You want to add some comments?
Okay, go on.
Cool. So back when we released in 2020, the initial phase was to synchronize customer and tank information. So that was the initial thing. Basically, when you go into the P3 app, all your customers from Cargas Energy and their tank info would be there. So we did that for the first few years, and it kind of provided a good base. In this past last year, we started providing phase 2, which you can see from the screenshot, and we'll switch and we'll go to a live screen here in a second, is from the customer screen in Cargas Energy. From the reports menu option now, you'll be able to see the P3 report. And there's Rosie barking. So
yeah, I'd say with phase 1 was really critical foundation for everything else that we do. So our account, basically what P3 and Cargas do is they share an integration ID with all different locations. And initially, for a new client, they'll push the entire data set, account names, addresses to P3. So that'll set up in P3, and we share the account number. So it's really easy to navigate. And then daily customer gains and losses are sent to P3. So people in the field never have to worry about typing in names and wrong spellings. And there's, the databases are in sync. So that really creates some efficiencies, gonna not have to worry about, if that doesn't happen, we see like, oh, I didn't put a capital K in Koerber, or I misspelled the street name or something like that. So that gives us a much better data set. It's at that point too that we started sharing this integration ID, and that integration ID is allowing us to build phase 2 and in the future phase 3 and phase 4. And I think some of our clients have moved forward to use phase 1 as part of their tank asset tracking strategy. When you're sent customer losses to P3, you can double check, make sure that you picked up that container before you're actually canceling that in P3. So that was a really critical building block.
Yeah, thanks for that elaboration, Kyle. I don't get to use it obviously as much. You probably know a little bit more of the intricate details and what some of our customers have been highlighting over the years. But that's, we're all about sharing the data and not having duplicate data, not having, the redundancy out there, so that you're not seeing the same customer, multiple times in the system. So, this certainly helps. So being able to, use the app and be able to look up a customer, and again, we'll talk about some of the future components there. So what just transpired this past year, and if you haven't been updated in the last 6 months or so, and if you're not live with the P3 integration, and there's some things in our support site, there's a whole section that we have too in the Cargas Energy support site, and I can pull that up later as well, where you can see all the documentation that we provide and links to the P3 website as well. So keep there in mind when you're looking for some of the background info and questions that you might have, more detailed questions. So with that, we will show, so we thank the folks at Keenan. They were able to provide us. So we have a customer here looking up their account in Cargas Energy. And as we indicated under the report section, you can go to P3 reports. And I've already logged in to my P3 username and password. And so now, again, and this kind of works very similar to like our CRM integration, where we, have the same, data passed back and forth, for sales and marketing purposes. This is obviously for the propane safety and compliance capability. So you can kind of switch between the tabs, keep it in a separate window if you want. But now all the information that is contained in the P3 side is now available to any customer service person. Some of the other things that we're talking about going forward are sharing pictures and things like that. So if you're not aware, in Cargas Energy, we have the images here as well. Anything you want to add or highlight, Kyle?
Yeah, I think, when we originally, by using a link, it's really the way that we've invested our time. There's a lot of propane safety documentation. It's way more than just a leak check. And this is going to give the ultimate flexibility. I mean, are you doing, with our mobile app, it's way more than a leak check or safety inspection. We're allowing for cylinder recalls or cathodic inspection, regulator replacements. This is only showing right now what, for this particular account, they just have a safety or photo inspection. So I think that this really gives maximum flexibility for the user experience, rather than trying to shoehorn this information into other parts of into Cargas. So Saul and I really like this, and sharing links in general seems to be, it's just more efficient. And it takes a lot to set up P3 to handle the type of safety information coming in. I mean, with a safety inspection, there's over 70 fields that need to be audited. So there's a lot of different stuff that it's really impossible to send all of these data points back and forth, because they exist in P3. Some of them are not going to exist in Cargas. So once people use this, I think it's very user friendly, and I think it leads to a really solid and efficient user experience.
So yeah, with that said, we are, there we go. With that said, we are still, working on enhancing, so we talked about the next stage, the future enhancement. So what's under kind of design review right now is sharing more of those document links. So we don't want to have to duplicate the data in both locations and worry about syncing all that up. So as Kyle really elaborated, we want to share the links to them so that they're available back and forth. So that's part of it. Other element of it is updating tanks and equipment automatically, right? So when you look in Cargas Energy and look at a tank, when does an inspection need to be done on a regulator and things like that, updating that information so that can go back and forth, and then subsequently sharing the pictures as well. So you can just take them in one place and share them back and forth. One of the things I think, Kyle, you and I talked about longer time ago was, the mobile app connection too as well. So that's definitely with our product, management team was one of the other considerations. So whether it be from our mobile service or even the mobile delivery application, to be able to have a link, and be able to connect or swap again, just like you do in the back office on the mobile side, be able to do those same things. So here's a couple of little screenshots of what those types of things could be, where we'd have an attachment type. It would be like a P3 safety document. And then again, that would just provide the link directly to that document. So it doesn't matter whether you would be in Cargas Energy or in P3, you'd have, both places where you'd be able to see that. So, I like to say in Cargas Energy, whether you're like adding a new tank, and you can do it from the tank screen, or if you do it from the pull down menu under setup, there's usually more than one way to do the same thing. So that is definitely part of our goal here going forward. Anything you want to add, Kyle? Or?
No, I just say that, you know, it's so hard to get the safety documentation done right. And we were just, my team was just made aware of there's just kind of a tragic accident, or not kind of, an extremely tragic accident in South Dakota. And it's hard to get this stuff done right. And by using these platforms together, it's going to help the industry be safer. And I don't think anyone can disagree with that. And when there are these tragic accidents, it's really just really horrible for everyone involved. And, you know, our team's kind of reeling after understanding what happened. And, you know, that's something we'd like to help everyone in the industry avoid.
Yeah, it certainly magnifies exactly, you know, what happens and the need for this. Anybody and everybody I talk to all across the country, you know, if they're not doing P3, I tell them you need to talk to somebody there. You need to be considering it. There's probably far too many companies that aren't, you know, doing the safety inspections and things properly. And, you know, anything you can do to avoid that and, you know, help from an insurance and just overall safety perspective, certainly need to consider and, you know, absolutely should be doing.
Thanks. Yeah, it's hard. I mean, it's hard. You know, there's so much stuff that people need to do to stay compliant. It can be overwhelming. But, you know, I think what we're providing our clients together is the easiest way to do it. And, you know, to be efficient. And, you know, it is, I mean, you have to do stuff. There's no getting around that. But Cargas and P3 are going to make it as easy as possible for the clients that use us together.
Yeah. So yeah, we were just some of the Midwest shows and Pacific and, you know, East Coast as well. And one of our customers, you know, as we, you know, completed delivery, you know, on the ticket, especially if they're just getting the digital one, customers were asking about the duty to warn, you know, being included like in the email and things like that, or text message that goes out. So those are exactly, you know, the types of enhancements and things that we want to keep on adding and making sure, you know, customers are aware of all the information that they need to, and all of our mutual customers are, you know, doing the right things.
Yeah, keep people as safe as possible. Yep, totally.
So that's pretty much our basic content for today. As Kyle said, I'd like to keep it short and sweet. If there were any particular questions that we have out there, I'm sure people are going to ask, you know, when things will be available, phase 3 and 4 and dates and stuff like that. You know, some of those things again are in design review and things like that. There's no definitive timetable on some of those specifics at this point in time, but it is, you know, under actively being worked on. So don't know if I, you know, sabotage some questions, but is there anything else that we have, Alex?
Sure. Yeah, there actually are a couple questions, and just as a reminder to everybody, if you do have any questions, you can type those into the question section of that GoToWebinar panel. So I'm going to just start with the first question here. Is this through an API or import export of data?
Yeah, it's a good question. It is all through the API, the connection and integration. The data does go back and forth, you know, from customer standpoint. So all the customers' locations, tanks, and all that stuff is in both systems. But the data that we show in Cargas Energy is via API and will be linked.
Okay, wonderful. And then actually the same person who posed that question also kind of followed up with a question, is it in real time?
Pretty sure. I think there's a setting. I think it runs like every 5 minutes or so. But that the customer data gets refreshed every night, right, Kyle?
Yep. Yeah, generally, and I think that's a good question, something for us to look into. So generally, nightly customer gains and losses are sent.
Mhm.
And I'm recalling that there's an ability for through Cargas to kind of like say, this needs to go to P3 now, but I might be recalling that a little bit incorrectly.
I'll double check and look at the settings. I think the updates that happen, between us, those can happen on a more tightly integration timeframe and whatnot. So I'll double check on the setting of that. I think it is also in again, if you look at the support website here, some of the info that if you search P3, we'll have it, and there's some YouTube video, and there's some other stuff in here. So I'm pretty sure it's in there. We'll double check on exactly what the time frame is once an update was done in P3 when it becomes available on the Cargas side.
And we can post that with the link with this video on YouTube with a link to the information. And Alex, maybe we can just get back to whoever asked that question as well.
Sure, absolutely. And then just we got another couple questions here. The next one is, we currently save the PDF report and then add under the customer attachments. Could this become automatic once the form is signed and saved?
Yeah, so that's the idea. So once the data is captured in P3 on the mobile side there, that data will be saved in P3 and then it'll be made available on the Cargas Energy side. You won't have to download any separate PDF or any documents and attach them in Cargas Energy.
That's what we call in phase 3. And also, so that would be completed PDFs, photos, potentially data points. And phase 4 would be integration of the mobile services to make those a little bit more seamless.
Okay, and it looks like we have, at this point, one last question, and it is, are there levels of services related to customer base?
Levels of services.
Well, in P3, if you have multiple locations, we handle that. We give you some advanced reporting so that you can look at the dashboard of that individual location, or you can see a roll-up of your different locations, and you can see who's great, who you're going to give a high five to, and who might stay in from recess. And I don't know if I answered that question correctly, but that was my shot at it.
So yeah, I think that would be on the P3 side. There is some overlap, in terms of what Cargas does from a service app standpoint, where we can do the leak check and we can do some of the service things, but there's obviously so much more that Kyle and the P3 team do that's where we want all of our customers that need to do the safety and documentation do that there. So there probably would be some overlap. I think there's even some potential within a task and then Cargas Energy. Again, that's what we're talking about with the mobile app, the link that, hey, if the task is to do the leak check or XYZ, that's where it then can send you over and say, hey, now you're going to capture this info on the P3 side.
Gotcha. You probably answered that right, but I gave you time to think about it.
All good.
We've got another question that just came in. Will there be a way to flow information in P3 into Cargas that has been in P3, or only new information once integrated in phase 3?
Yeah, that is a good question. So if you just start, now and you already have a lot of information, part of the initial upload is to bring all the existing data over and do that. So yes, the answer is you'll have the capability to see whatever might have been done in the past.
And I would say too, it is really good to get very specific on what people want. We've shown you here our vision, P3 documents, photos. If you have very specific thoughts, please share them with us. And I think, Saul, you guys have like a there's a specific spot, right, where you tell people to go?
Yeah, so on the website as well, there's info where you can put in questions or recommendations or requests, for features and things like that. So, if you want to do it there, you can certainly do that there, or you can always talk to your account manager, our customer, experience team as well. If you're on here and send a message to Kyle or myself as well. We are meeting monthly between the two companies, so actively reviewing, where we stand with the integration, bugs, issues, new customers coming on board and things like that. So this is, truly a joint interactive, working relationship. And again, we're keeping, trying to make it better as much as possible.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and the more specific you can be, the better. To be exact is very helpful.
Yep. So yeah, on the support page, you can, submit a request and, within the connections or again, search or put in things right there. So I think, is that it, Alex?
Yep, there are no more questions on this end.
All right. Well, very cool. We kept it within the half hour, Kyle. Successful.
Mission accomplished. Thanks so much for joining us, Saul. Thank you all for joining us. And you're going to keep making this thing better and better. So I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
See you, Kyle. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.